Bonjour, hi. My name is Lisa, and I have a Kate Bush problem in that I really, really, really love the British singer Kate Bush. And I couldn't be more thrilled that in the year 2022, Kate is trending around the world. I've been listening to her music since high school, and I feel that she's been an inspiration and her music a kind of constant companion for most of my life. So, how wonderful is it that a whole new generation of music fans are discovering her, thanks to the inclusion of Running Up That Hill in the television series Stranger Things. I love this for so many reasons. I love it for the new fans, I love it for Kate, and I love it for me because for decades now I've been part of a sort of secret club of obsessives, Kate Bush fanatics. And now there's new people we can talk to about Kate. So I've come out of kind of semi YouTube retirement to make this video for those who are looking for more information, more recommendations about the music of Kate Bush. If this is you, welcome to my channel. I made this for you. And if you also happen to be into goth, subculture, and fashion and music, I got a whole bunch of videos on this channel I hope you'll take a look at afterwards. If you are a follower and a subscriber of this channel, thank you. Thank you for sticking around through my long absence during this pandemic and crazy life. I'm glad to be here with you. And the best thing you can do to support this channel is share my videos with your friends, leave likes and comments for the algorithm. And if you would like to, and you are able to, you can now tip me. There's a link in the video description below. Will this be a one-off? I'm not sure yet. You tell me. Maybe it'll be up to you in the comments if you want to hear me talk about more music. But let's start with what everyone's talking about right now. Let's talk about Kate Bush. Very, very short bio. It's not even a bio. Kate started making records in 1978, and she's released 10 full-length studio albums since then. EPs, live albums, remixes, greatest hits, box sets, another random product that somewhat satisfies her fan base in that long stretch, those long stretches where she doesn't put out any music at all. I'm going to focus on the studio albums in this video. In fact, 5 of the 10 studio albums that I recommend if you're new to Kate Bush or if you haven't listened to her records in a while. These are the 5 I think that are essential in out of her 10 catalog. And I don't think it'll surprise people, either if you know me or if you spend a lot of time thinking about Kate Bush, that my number one choice, my Desert Island Disc, the record I consider the mothership of Kate Bush albums, is Hounds of Love. If you have time for only one Kate Bush album today, this is it. And not just because it opens with Running Up That Hill, but if you find that song to be perfect and beautiful and bewitching, just wait until you hear the album that it comes from. Like I said, this was my Kate Bush discovery. I heard Running Up That Hill. I saw Running Up That Hill as a music video first, and I thought, who is this? Who is this singer? What is this incredible song? It transported me somewhere. And to me, that's what this album does as well. When I listen to Hounds of Love, it's kind of like a Tim Burton movie. And what I mean by that is life is boring. Our civilization is boring. And if you let artists have money and freedom to envision something else, wow, how lucky are we? It's inspired by science and history, poetry, philosophy, and ultimately it's an album about love. Like, this is my jam. It is both intimate and grandiose, and I don't think there's a bad song on here. There are 2 sides to the album, but the first side is sort of random songs about love that go together, all great. And the second side is a suite that is meant to tell a story in 7 songs called The Ninth Wave. Side note, I had a goth zine in the 1990s, which I called The Ninth Wave, after this album. If you have a copy, if you ever read it, shout out to you. Thank you so much. All right, let's talk about what's on here and why it's so great. Running Up That Hill, we know it's great. You might not know that that was not the original title of the song. Kate wrote this as a song called A Deal with God, and her label said, the radio is not going to play that. We don't think the radio is going to play it with the word God in the title. So they retitled it, and Kate went along with it, unusually went along with it. That's why you'll see it's called Running Up That Hill in brackets, make a deal with God. It is, Kate says, a song about switching bodies and minds between men and women, that desire to really know what's in the other person's head and heart. And that's something I love about Kate. She tells us what her songs are about. So many singer-songwriters, so many songwriters, they say when you ask them, oh, it's open to interpretation. I want the listener to decide for themselves what it means. No, when Kate does talk and she talks about her music, she will tell you what her inspirations are, what her intentions are. And that's what she's talking about in this song. The rest of side one, well, can you say that an art pop singer, an experimental art pop singer, has bangers? If yes, there are bangers on side one of Hounds of Love. The title track, Hounds of Love, which is another song actually about running from your fear, about being afraid of literally being ripped apart. The Big Sky is also so big, and I love dancing to it. Goth, a fact for you. The bass on The Big Sky is played by Youth from Killing Joke. You might know or have seen a video for a song on Hounds of Love called Cloud Busting. It's from the point of view of a young boy whose father is a philosopher and a psychiatrist, and he builds rain-making machines. So Kate in the video plays the son dressed as a boy, and the father is played by Donald Sutherland. Check that out. If Hounds of Love ended there, it would still be a perfect record at number one on my list. But then you flip it over to the side of the ninth wave. 7 songs telling the story of a woman lost at sea, floating in the water in the night, not sure if she's going to be rescued. Yeah, of course I love this. You should buy it. You can choose from a variety of formats. Originally, it came out on LP, on cassette, and on CD. There's been several remasterings, both on vinyl and CD, that you can pick up. My version from the 80s came on a pink vinyl, but apparently it's crappy sounding. Apparently it's not the best version. Whatever format you choose, just go out. Just buy the Hounds of Love album. Number 1 is taken care of. Time for number 2 on my list of essential Kate Bush albums you need to hear now. If you would like to dive deeper, in fact, take the deepest dive into Kate's discography, I'm going to recommend as my number 2 album, The Dreaming. It's her weird record. What does that even mean when you're already an experimental artist? I listen to The Dreaming and I hear a masterpiece. Couple important things. Kate produced this record herself, which means it's close to what she hears in her head and wants her music to be like, which is dense and fantastical. There's lots of layers here of instruments, of voices. It kind of sits in between progressive rock and post-punk. So if you like either of those genres or both of those genres, you may want to even start with The Dreaming. Just saying. She's using techniques which at the time were fairly experimental, looping, sampling, etc. She's also well known for using an early synthesizer called the Fairchild. So shout out to Kate for being a woman experimenting in electronic music and recording techniques in the early 80s. I'm also going to say, I personally think this is Kate's most gothic record. Yeah. To me, it's a glimpse into her mind at its most tormented and obsessive. There's so many different voices and characters on this album. No one is having a good time. I think it's haunted, frankly. So why would you want to listen to an album like that? Well, let me talk about some of the songs. The title track, The Dreaming, which is, frankly, another banger, practically a club banger in alternative clubs in the 90s. I remember, other than Running Up That Hill and maybe Babushka, The Dreaming is the Kate Bush song they would play in the clubs. This is a song Kate's talking about the Australian Aboriginal tribes and their struggles, their communities being destroyed in part by foreign mining companies. And it's very percussive. It's very, God, I don't want to use the word tribal. Someone help me out. Tell me how to describe The Dreaming without saying it's tribal. Because that is actually kind of a problem with the song when you listen to it in 2022. And I would ask Kate, if I could speak with her today, how she feels, because she really was appropriating another culture here. She was singing as the Aboriginals. And I don't think we should do that anymore. I will say the song opened my eyes to an issue I might not otherwise have known about at all when I heard it. So for that reason, I still love it. Also, It contains one of the best moments on any Kate Bush album, I would say. At the end of the song, you have this didgeridoo, this long droning didgeridoo, and it slides its way in to Irish pipes and penny whistles, and a song called Night of the Swallow, which is just this gorgeous melodrama about a woman afraid her husband is about to get killed in a smuggling operation. She doesn't want him to get on the plane. It's beautiful, and that sort of integration of those two songs are one of my favorite things about The Dreaming. Also, it has a couple other favorites of mine, Houdini, which is another song actually about a woman who's afraid about her lover's line of work. The album finishes with Get Out of My House, which Kate says was inspired by the Stephen King novel The Shining, which frightened her. And it is a frightening song. It's actually more frightening than her song called Hammer Horror. So if you want scary Kate Bush, get yourself The Dreaming and listen all the way to the end. Hopefully I've convinced you, though, not to be scared of this album, even though it didn't have good sales at the time, didn't have great critical reviews at the time. I think in hindsight, it's widely acknowledged as a masterpiece. It's Kate Bush operating at a very high level. Also, the songs are great. So at number 2, The Dreaming. Moving on to number 3 on my top 5 albums from Kate Bush you need to hear is going way back to 1978 and her very first record. It's called The Kick Inside. Look at this picture. Look at this beautiful woman. I think she's 20 here. Well, you could look at her if I was any better at actually angling these. I'll put the graphic up. I'm pretty jealous of anyone who heard her in 1978 for the first time, because we've had so many artists inspired by Kate over the years who sort of sound like her. Tori Amos, I'm thinking of Lorde, Bjork even, but to have heard Kate when it was only Kate, I think that would have been amazing. As legend has it, she'd been writing songs since around the age of 11, and her demo tapes got in the hand of David Gilmour of Pink Floyd, and then into the hands of EMI UK, who signed her to a record deal as a teenager. The first song the world heard from Kate Bush is on this album. It's called Wuthering Heights, and if you think Running Up That Hill is something, and you haven't heard Wuthering Heights yet, you can go do that now. Come back. I'll wait. Okay, well, you back? This song is inspired by the novel Wuthering Heights by Emily Bronte, and Kate is singing from the point of view of the character of Catherine, or Kathy, at Heathcliff's window. It's so British, it's so gothic, and it's all about Kate's vocal performance here, which, as I understand, was recorded in one take. What? Mind blown! This is an absolutely classic, I think, of British contemporary pop music of any genre. And if you love the song, you might also love the videos. There are 2. The red dress video being the famous one, which has been recreated by fans around the world on something called the Most Wuthering Heights Day Ever events. Have I done this? Yes. Yes, I have. But wait, there's more. There's the piano ballad, The Man with the Child in His Eyes, which is so beautiful. Apparently written when she was 13. Another mind blown. What? I can't even imagine. My poetry at 13 is so bad. My poetry at 20 was so bad. This song is beautiful, and it comes right before Wuthering Heights in the track listing. So this back-to-back, Wuthering Heights, Man with a Child in His Eyes, possibly the best back-to-back 1-2 punch of Kate's entire discography. So for that reason, I've chosen The Kick Inside. The rest of the songs are not really my jam. I would never call them the worst. Maybe they're a bit proggy and 70s for me. You might like them more. In either case, The Kick Inside is an essential album to know where the whole thing started, what Kate sounded like as a young artist, and how extraordinary she was. We've come to album number 4 on my list, and this might surprise some people. It doesn't get as much love as I would hope, but I have selected from 1989 her 6th studio album, The Sensual World. This album doesn't get a lot of love from critics, or doesn't get talked about very much, and my only theory is that most music critics are still dudes, and this is the least dude ish of all the Kate Bush albums. Not to say that music can be gendered, and as I mentioned, she does play around with that in any effect, but this is a very feminine album, hyper feminine album. It's about female sexuality, motherhood, the relationship between a daughter and father, various romantic relationships. There's a song on here titled after her cat. Ugh, like if I didn't love Kate already enough, she's also a cat lady. This is the chick flick of Kate Bush albums. It's very warm, it's lush, and it's a mood that is consistent throughout the record, unlike some of her other albums. If you're in this mood, you can put it on and you're not going to be sort of dragged off in another direction. So, the songs. The title track, The Sensual World, another literary reference. It's inspired by James Joyce's classic novel, Ulysses. In fact, she originally wrote music around a soliloquy from the novel and then couldn't get the rights to use it from the James Joyce estate, and so had to rewrite it. The Sensual World, as heard on this album, is her reimagining the character of Molly Bloom, stepping out of the page of the book and living her best life. This song to me sounds like satin sheets and velvet drapes and heaving bosoms and desire. I love this song, The Sensual World. And sonically, I think it sets up the rest of the album. Also of note, there are 3 songs on this record featuring a Bulgarian women's folk trio of vocalists, which, if you weren't there and can imagine it, was a trend. 4AD put out a record called Le Mystère des Voix Vulgaires in '89. Is this a folk album, in fact? I don't know. Tell me in the comments what you think about that, of The Sensual World being kind of a folk album. There are a few other tracks on here that I love, but the most important one, I think, is This Woman's Work, which, after Running Up That Hill, I imagine is the most well-known song to the public at large from Kate Bush. It appeared in a John Hughes movie. It was written for that movie called She's Having a Baby, and it's written from the point of view of a man whose partner is going into labor and it's complicated. So he's flashing back, thinking about their relationship and all of this woman's work. The R&B star from America, Maxwell, covered this song, I think, on his MTV Unplugged special. So there's a whole lot of Americans who love Kate Bush's music and don't even know who Kate Bush is, which is also kind of cool. Some might say this is Kate Bush light because it's not that weird. The fact that Kate can write an album like this, but mostly chooses not to, mostly chooses to be weird, makes me love her even more. If you want a different side of Kate Bush, The Sensual World from 1989 should be on your playlist. It's definitely on mine. All right, we've made it to number 5. I wish I could say it was difficult for me to choose one last album for this spot, but it wasn't really, because I love this one. It's from 2005. I've chosen Ariel. Now, I think there are people watching this because they love Running Up That Hill on Stranger Things who've never owned a CD. So let's show you what it looks like inside. This is a double album. See, it flips out and it's got 2 CDs in it. The side 1 is called A Sea of Honey, and the side 2 is called A Sky of Honey. So much like the Ninth Wave, there's a suite on side B of songs that all go together. It's a domesticated album in a way, but not experimental, because it's Kate Bush. Bird song is a theme of this record, and so you hear the sound of birds at the beginning, the sound of birds at the end. The album art is not topography, it's actually audio wave of bird songs. So Kate continues to use all of the tools and imagines new tools for her songwriting palette. It's a joyful record, you know. I feel joy when I listen to it, especially side 2, which, as I said, is a suite, and it takes you through a day from the sunrise, or even before sunrise when you first hear birds, throughout the day, sunset, and into the night. Simple pleasures like listening to birds, doing the laundry, maybe drawing a painting, sitting on your porch. The last track on the record, self-titled track Ariel, is 8 minutes long, and it just fills my heart. My heart swells when I listen to it. Maybe because it reminds me of seeing her in concert. She played a lot of Ariel on her Before the Dawn tour, which is something that I'm so lucky to have been able to witness. I never thought I would see Kate Bush play in my life. Maybe, do you think maybe because of the Stranger Things phenomena, she might come back? Wow, wouldn't that be something? If you want something modern from Kate Bush, from her later years, believe it or not, 2005 is still considered a later years record. I recommend Ariel. It's really, really nice, and sometimes that's okay. I have one honorable mention, which is The Whole Story. It's a greatest hits compilation. If you have limited time or you have limited money to buy a Kate Bush record, this will give you the hits or the classics from her first few albums up until Hounds of Love. It also has a track on here called Experiment 4, which isn't available otherwise. So much for you to listen to, so much talking. Thank you for coming to the end of this with me. I appreciate your time. There's a lot to watch on YouTube. There's a lot to watch on the internet, and I don't take for granted you spending your time with me. Hopefully I will see you again. Like I said, leave me comments to let me know if you would like more of this. And let's talk about Kate Bush also. Feel free to fight me on my choices, although you will lose. or let's just nerd out about our favorite songs. I didn't even get to talk about Lily and Song of Solomon on Song of Solomon off of the Red Shoes. Maybe we'll do that in the comments. Thank you so much wherever you are. Keep listening to this wonderful artist, and I'll talk to you again.